I'm edgy today.
Oh God, I can't believe we got to deal with edgy Noah today. Hello, everybody. My name is Taylor Scarborough. That is Noah, and on today
Edgy
on
Noah.
You Didn't Catch That, edgy Noah. Today's episode of You Didn't Catch That, we're talking about Supernatural season 3. Yes, we're finally in the final of the early seasons. The 3 everybody usually skips when they're doing a rewatch of the series. And we are here at the end of it before the start of the good stuff.
I thought these were the only good ones that I was getting into.
No, these are the only ones that have you know how you enjoy the monster hunts of the week? Yeah, these are the 3 with the most amount of those.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Let's do more of this.
I can't take this seriously.
To what are
Okay,
you
so
referring, Taylor?
basically what happens this season is Dean made a deal to save Sam's life last season, and now he's got a year to live. This season 3 is just going for the last year of Dean's life as he's preparing to meet the end, and then he dies.
Quite a dark and foreboding overlining plotline we had to deal with this season. Deep themes of angst and inevitable demise.
And it actually pays off, and Dean does actually die, and the boys have to deal with the consequences of it.
It was quite the shocker.
Here's some warnings. There are going to be spoilers. Trigger warnings, too, since there's probably going to be talk of violence, definitely talk of death, unconsensual kissing sessions, yet again.
An unfortunate motif in this series.
And possibly worse. So what are your thoughts, Noah?
Well, I gotta say, it was definitely a fun one. I can see why people have a lot of fun with this season. There was a lot of fun highlight moments for me. I'll admit I plowed through this one. I think it blends together a bit more than some of the other seasons in my brain. But it's a fun time. There are a lot of fun episodes. This is the one where they really are trying to flesh out, add some new characters for the boys to hang out with, which they have to because they killed off almost all of them in the last season. And I'm sure that's not even a problem. It's fine. It's fine. I'm not even sad about Ash anymore.
Hey, Joe is still alive.
Whatever.
Joe is still alive, and she's out there somewhere. She just didn't come back this season.
Whatever, man. Ash is dead.
I'm just saying, we've got some friends. You're mad about Ash. I'm mad about Andrew. Are you kidding me? Andrew as Sam's psychic would have been amazing. But we're not on season 2 now. We're on season 3. So what did you think about season 3?
More Bobby time all the time. Bobby's showing up in like every third episode at least. Not to mention new potential allies, new potential enemies. Emma Frost shows up as a discount version of herself to be like meddlesome for a few episodes and then eat it.
You're talking about Bella, right?
Yes,
Bella
yeah, I'm talking about Bella, the discount Emma Frost.
She doesn't even have like powers like Emma Frost does.
British accent, very in control, doesn't particularly care about morality or the consent of others. It's Emma Frost. Also blonde and a woman.
Fair enough.
It's an Emma Frost.
Okay.
I had a lot of. I'd be lying, if I didn't say it was a lot of fun. It was a good time. It was a solid season. I think that, I was definitely the most, I guess, invest in this. I definitely felt the most like frustrated whenever like they didn't take out Bella or Ruby, especially when we like first meet them. Like, what? You're gonna get so meddled. I'm so invested. Don't you let these like let them take you down. Bella's gonna just destroy you. The Rabbit's Foot episode, absolute solid, and introduced discount Emma Frost. A lot of fun comedy, like physical comedy hijinks, and a lot of just cool supernatural fun and twists. And like, I loved at the end when Dean like forced her to catch it, and they had to get rid of it. It was just, it's a solid season. People are right. Sometimes the fandom is right, I guess.
What do you think the fandom feels about season 3?
I assume
I want to know
like
what you think the fandom.
Everything I've heard is like, yeah, you gotta miss the first 2 seasons; they kind of suck, and then 3 and 4 are the highlight. That was my like fandom impression going in, was that I was sort of coming into Golden Age Supernatural here. And I'm not sure how accurate that is, but it'd be fair to say that I had a good time here, and there was some interesting revelations and some fun episodes.
Personally, I feel like Golden Age Supernatural is seasons 4 and 5, the final 2 of the original story. Season 3 is all right. I feel like it's better than 1 or 2. When I was a kid, season 3 was one of my favorites, and now as I rewatched it, I'm like, oh no, why did I like this season? It's not aged well. Most people, when they're talking about Supernatural and they're telling you to start, they just say go ahead and start at season 4. If you want to understand more about the psychic powers, it's best to start at season 3, but the fandom doesn't really. It's the first 3 seasons are very derisive. Divisive is what I think I'm looking for. I don't know. And it's actually because there's a lot of issues with Bella and Ruby.
Oh.
Or a lot of the issues with season 3 comes from in the fandom. You have people who really love those characters. You have people who really love those characters, and then you have people who really hated them and petitioned the show to get rid of them.
I mean,
Yeah. And like, don't get me wrong, I'm not a big fan of Bella or Ruby. I could not stand them. I really just don't like their characters in general. But that's because like they're really fucking just. You gotta be careful when you talk about these two, because there's always the viewpoint that, hey, you just don't like these characters because they're 2 women getting close to the guys. And like, personally for me, I don't like these 2 characters because they're really just awful. Like, Bella straight up sells Dean and Sam's location to someone who she knows wants to hunt them down.
Yeah, that was just
that's not cool.
Why are you like ever gonna team up with her again? That is just not. Yeah, that is not cool.
Was just saved by them, and then she immediately sells them out. Like, that's not cool, guys. Not a cool thing to do.
That is not cash money.
It's
Get
not
it together,
cash money
boys.
at all.
So okay, we're getting to we'll get into some of the like, I guess, fun stuff and individual episodes. I've just been looking over like the summaries of episodes throughout the seasons here, just to refresh my like scattered little brain memory. And you know what was in the season and never came up like at all? They introduced the 7 deadly sins and their own bar, and then they just vanished. I was like, oh yeah. Like, I remember watching that episode and be like, oh yeah, 7 deadly sins. These seem like pretty obvious, like, bad guy shows up once a week and we take them out, and we're, like, slowly working towards that overarching plot without having to let go of the episodic structure, which is the show's butter zone. But no, I guess we'll never see them and the place that they all explicitly hang out and have a good time in complex relationships together again.
No, you will never see them again. You will never see that bar again.
What?
That never comes up again. Because they're throwaway demons.
Was that the writers, like...
Because
was that the writers'
they aren't actually the 7 deadly sins.
Oh, they're not?
I don't know.
What?
They're not actually the 7 deadly sins. What they are 7 demons who always hunt together as a group, who go by the title of the 7 deadly sins because each one has a power related to said sins because they embodied them supposedly in their human lives.
Okay, so to be clear, you're saying that the 7 deadly sins show up at a later date to be used in some other capacity? So, okay, people that weren't the 7 deadly sins that just happened to be very 7 deadly sin-ish showed up, had a bunch of interesting relationships, and had a bar together, threatened a couple of hunters. Dean and Sam had to rush in and save them, threatened revenge, and then they never showed up again?
No, they never show up again. I don't understand why you're having so much trouble dealing with this. Like, it never happens.
I can't. Okay. Whatever.
Never.
I don't even care. Okay,
You
whatever.
clearly do.
Because there's so much fun stuff in this season. I mean, like, okay, want to talk about good one-offs? Bedtime stories?
I'll give you that one. I did enjoy that one.
Coma Spirit Girl, which, like, this season is sort of the season that's like, no, I think just everybody that's unconscious is some sort of malevolent force. If you're not currently awake, you're probably evil. Like,
You're probably evil.
Because that's the season. Like, okay, let's break it down. We have the episode where, like, we try the, like, you know, Aboriginal sleeping pills, and turns out that gives you dream-walking powers, and now you can be a discount Russian sleep experiment villain who is in reality themselves a discount X-Files character villain, and go around.
They're literally called Dreamwalkers, and they do show up again.
Oh boy, I actually look forward to that. That's a great excuse to mess around with our main characters' brains. I see why they use them. Anyway, so we have the Dreamwalkers. You can just be bad guy just by being asleep. Okay. Also, bedtime stories. A little girl was knocked into a coma by her evil stepmother and is making a bunch of evil happen based on the fairy tales that her dad is reading her. Anyway, she went into a coma like 10 years ago. Now she's a teenager, but her spirit is still a child because she was knocked out as a child. Anyway, the spirit, her caught between the land of the living and the dead, is recreating fairy tales in a gruesome way around town to try and signal and cry for help. Turns out if you're in a coma, you're potentially malevolent. And we've already established that, like, 50-50 when you die, like, you're going to turn into a spirit, which apparently at the start of season 2, we were going to pretend that they all had mental illness, and then Roadkill, best episode of last season, was like, nah, you just, whatever. You're not really fully human. What? Who cares?
The ghosts and their powers are differentiated on what kind of spirit they are. Literally, what kind of, like, what their mental state is depends entirely on what kind of ghost they became.
That being said,
just what the show throws out there.
Let's say you survived falling asleep and not going evil. You survived comas and not going evil. You survived dying and not hanging around and going evil. And then you go to hell and it turns out you're already stuck getting evil. Most people are inevitably going to be evil at some point in supernatural rules. Is nobody bothered by this?
It makes you wonder, why do the hunters even hunt? Because everyone's gonna be evil anyway.
Oh my goodness.
If they go to hell, they're gonna be evil.
Yeah, seriously, did nobody tell them? Why did no other hunters know this? That demons are all just people that hung out in hell too long? That feels like something that should have come up earlier. And if that was the case, I feel like hunters should have all swapped to being like, I don't know, vicars or something. Well, you gotta prevent demons? Here's a good way to start at the root of the problem.
No, that's not how it works.
I want to see John in a dog collar.
Want to. Well, you won't get to see him in a dog collar. There are other demons you will. I want to explain how hell and heaven works in the series to you, but I don't want to spoil shit. So
it turns out hell is literally other people. So who even cares?
Hell is literally just other people. What do you mean hell is other people?
It's a famous quote. Hell is other people. And in this case, it is literally the reality of the situation. I'm sure we'll get into it more. Those expensive shots of hell are probably going to crop up in that first episode of season 4. I'm getting ahead of myself, aren't I?
They don't. Anyways, you are getting ahead of yourself. But I just want you... Let's go back to what you started on this tangent with. Interesting ideas the show introduces and then doesn't utilize as much as they could. Let's talk about the 7 deadly sins.
Okay.
Or like, what are some other concepts you think showed up this season that could have been more could have been done with, but wasn't? Like, we got the special children in season 2. Let's talk about season 3's untapped potential.
Untapped potential here. Okay. You want to talk about untapped potential? Honestly, no, like, new introduction really stands out. I mean, in the Ghostfacers episode, a thing we'll not be talking about anymore, I'm sure, later on in this podcast episode, they do introduce the idea of, what did they call it? A death freeze? Death flash? Death loop?
Death Omen.
Death...
Oh, Death Omen.
They just called it a death omen? When you're just...
No, there's Death Omens, and then there's Death Echoes. Death Echoes are the loops where you live for
when
your
you're
death.
doing the GLaDOS thing where you're dying over and over again.
Okay. I see we're going there, too.
When you're just doing a GLaDOS. So yeah, they introduced that concept, which I'm sure will show up again as just a great place to, like, flesh out a haunted area. I have to assume, like, you keep telling me that some of, like, any idea, my sense is any idea that feels like a writer could eke out more episodes out of, like Dreamwalkers, like Changelings, that's something that they will easily, like, oh yeah, let's bring that one back. Like, this seems like a great way to, like, convey information that you'd otherwise have to, like, have a brother sit down in a library and explain to another brother for, like, a minute and a half of screen time. And in this way, you can just be like, we show up here and, uh-oh, look, that Confederate soldier keeps getting blasted in the head over and over again. I wonder what that's going to tell us about this location. Like, I assume that's just how it's going to get used.
I wonder if it had a role in the Civil War.
What could it be? I assume that that's going to come back. But it didn't this season.
That's an interesting idea. It did not this season. But, like, we are understanding more about... the season we got to understand more about demons.
Oh yeah, we definitely got more about demons.
And you have the 7 deadly sins. You have the fact that they can switch bodies as long as they aren't killed or exorcised back to hell.
Mm-hmm.
You got the different eyes thing going on.
Ruby taught Bobby how to make a gun that can kill demons, and then they made one and then never thought about just mass manufacturing them. Not a once.
Yeah, no, that happened too. Although you can bet Bobby has the instructions written down somewhere.
One is like, I have to assume.
Bobby's got the instructions written
why?
somewhere.
Like, okay.
Bobby's.
I thought we were gonna have an interesting, like, arc. If I may go on a tangent, when I saw Bobby working on the revolver, I thought Bobby was going to be like, oh, I'm going to learn gunsmithing. This is going to be my thing. Whenever they cut to me, I'm going to be learning how guns work. And I'm going to be, like, building a new revolver with my new gun skills. And this is something I've been secretly training for. And I'm going to build the new revolver that's going to do stuff. And then Ruby shows up and she taught him how to do it. And then we never saw it again.
We did see it again. It just got stolen by Bella.
Okay, we saw the revolver again. But the concept of building subsequent revolvers went away.
I'm pretty sure there's a reason why they can't just mass manufacture them. I don't remember what that reason is. It'll probably get mentioned at some point. I know there's a reason why Bobby couldn't make more.
I mean, there has to be. The writers would, like...
Yeah. There was something that required that Bobby couldn't get on his own, and I don't remember what it is. So we'll see how that goes. But no, Bobby knows how to make guns. Bobby already has the gunsmithing skill. He just hasn't gotten to use it yet.
Good for Bobby. Keeping up a nice, like, creative craft hobby. Like, really keeps the mind agile.
Oh, I can't wait until you see Weekend at Bobby's. Which is
Weekend at what?
I think
now?
Season 5.
Weekend
There's
at
a
what
weekend
now?
There's a Weekend at Bobby's house episode that's all about Bobby and what he does on
Bobby. Because, like, in Weekend
No,
at
it's just-
Bernie's, Bernie didn't work out too good in that one.
No, nothing happens to Bobby besides, like, he helps, like, 3 different hunters on a case in one episode.
Oh, good for Bobby.
Because Bobby is the opposite of John Winchester, where John, like, didn't associate with other hunters, and if he didn't have to, Bobby associates with all other hunters.
Oh, that's what...
He just doesn't let them hang out in his house like they hang out at Ellen's bar.
I just realized why this is the best season so far. Not a single instance of John Winchester. No John. This is a John-free season and the first we've had so far.
It's actually not entirely John-free because you have John Free in the Krakatoa episode. Where he's calling Dean.
Oh, no.
Trying to get him killed.
That's not the Krakatoa, but that is the one with, like, whatever it's called. The cravat? No, that's a type of
Oh,
neckerchief. The
it's crow. It's crow something.
Croatian. No, that's just a person from Croatia.
No, Croatian is the other one. I'm pretty sure it's a. No, look, I literally have this thing in my notes. Just hang on.
Do you know the answer?
God.
Go to www.youdidn'tcatchthat.org.
It's the crocata pretending to be John. And I remember this because I remember hearing that. And he says, "Oh, I love you, son." I'm like, "Oh, that can't be John." I don't think we once gotten John to say "I love you" to one of his boys.
I mean, does that count as John? I guess it does. I mean, like the voice of John.
Listen, it's the voice of John, so he still appeared, but it's not John Winchester himself. It's someone pretending to be John, which is why it doesn't feel like him.
Depending on your metrics, this is the first John-free season, and certainly the most John-free, whatever you're determining these things by, which is a good indicator of quality as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, the show gets better the longer John's away.
Man, I hope he never comes back. I'm sure that the show would have serious issues if John Winchester came back and started running around and messing with my boys. I hope that never happens.
He never gets revived.
Oh, thank heavens. I worried that was going to be a thing.
No, he never gets brought back to life.
Hence my smarmy smirking and, like, knowing winks. I was oh yeah, he's definitely coming back.
I get why you did that, and he does return in some ways, but he's never revived.
Okay, thank good.
Like, you get flashbacks to their childhood and shit.
Oh.
Like, you actually got in this season, only it didn't have John in it. It was their first precious little Christmas.
Oh, yeah, their little Christmas.
It was actually the first time.
Oh,
it's the first time Sam finds out that, oh shit, Daddy hunts monsters. Because his family lied to him about it their entire life until he was 9 years old at Christmas.
What's wrong with... Stupid question.
Everything! Dude, everything's wrong with John. I literally have so much shit this season about John that John wasn't even around for. Like, the fact that Henriksen, who is yet another person who, if this show wasn't about the Winchesters, Henriksen would be a good guy.
Yeah.
If this show wasn't about the Winchesters, Gordon would have been a good guy in the first episode he showed up in.
Until the reveal of his origin.
Until the reveal, Gordon would have been seen as the good guy until the reveal of, like, oh, he straight up just is really cruel. He doesn't care if they're hunting real people or not, which is kind of normal in the hunter community. And you see even Dean's kind of like treading down that path. Like, Henriksen is another person who would have been a good guy if he wasn't originally pitted against the Winchesters. And he does get to be a little bit of a good guy. But I love how in that episode, Henriksen's like, yeah, your dad was probably alt-right. Your dad was probably a fucking Nazi. Henriksen does not like John Winchester, and I'm here for it.
I mean, I was surprised the boys didn't start going after him at that point and that point alone.
If you watch that whole scene, yeah, Dean gets mad, but Sam didn't care about anything Henrik was saying until he talked shit about John that way, and then Sam sits up and he takes it seriously. He's like, oh shit, am I gonna have to stop my brother? And Dean's like, ha ha ha, you're not cute.
Oh man.
We don't swing that way. That's what he says.
This is how we swing. And then he punches him. There are a lot of fun Dean and Sam moments in this season. I mean, like, yeah, like you said, in a very supernatural Christmas, an episode grossly deprived of an excess of murder Santa, I would argue. It makes up for it with a lot of really touching Dean and Sam scenes. I love the tree that gets made up where, I can't remember if it's the present tree or the past tree that's got, like, nothing but air fresheners hanging as decorations.
I think it's the past tree.
Oh my goodness.
Because I don't think they have a tree. The
Barbie gift, the, like, baton. I love I love that they get each other stuff from like the nearby gas station when they're in the future, and it's just like they're genuinely reaching out to each other. Sam doesn't know how to make eggnog. I assume that Sam doesn't know how to make anything because all these boys eat is fast food. I've been promised an explanation and I'm still waiting. I'm still waiting.
It doesn't happen till 12. I can't give you it yet.
I guess I'll find out in like October. It's a long time to sit and envy these boys and their hamburgers.
Listen. Okay, so here's the thing. The boys eat a lot of fast food. That's just fucking obvious. However, Dean does know how to cook.
Mm-hmm.
Dean cooks between the two of them. Sam doesn't know how to make shit.
Of course he doesn't.
Also, the eggnog he made was spiked. He was trying to make sure there was enough alcohol in it for Dean.
Yeah, I caught that. And then
Okay,
Dean went and is like, oh no, my throat is dying.
There's too much, Sammy.
It was very much a Zuko making Iroh tea moment. So he was very bracing.
Sammy, you've got the mixtures wrong in this again.
With all due apologies to the Mako stands in the audience. Mako. Mako? Mako. Who was the original voice of Iroh?
Yeah, no, that's correct.
I can never remember which one is the correct pronunciation because the character they named after him is Mako.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's Mako because the character named after him is Mako. I literally almost asked who the hell is a Mako stand because I don't like Mako in Legend of Korra. But I forgot that was the voice actor's name too. He does Splinter in the 2007 animated movie.
Nice.
I mean, not the movie, but him.
The movie wasn't too bad. That's not the fucking point of this episode. I love the 2007 TMNT movie. Fight me.
Okay, so
Fight it!
I had a playset for that.
Fight it!
I had a very large playset for that. Why did I have a playset for that? I didn't have any of the turtles. I had maybe one and the tiny demon model that came with the playset. I don't know why I had that.
That's the first movie I remember going and sitting down in the movie theater and watching with my family. Okay, anyways, so
Bring it back to Earth.
lots of Sam and Dean.
Sorry,
I was
you were
going to
saying?
say Sam pointing out that no one can save him unless he wants to save himself. Dean straight up quoting the Trickster by accident in the final episode, nearly saying the exact same fucking thing as him. After Sam kills everybody to try and get Dean back from said Trickster.
I think my favorite moment, hands down, because of how much it builds on like so much of the issues with these boys. Because we've like the big issue with the Winchesters, right? Like of the many, is that
Yeah.
of the many many flaws they have. One of the biggest ones I'd say, and like the most kind of like identifiable, is that as a consequence either of what their dad did or of the reality of who their dad was, they never learned how to mourn. Like when their mom died, he like legged it, got out of there, went and did something absolutely nuts with absolutely like there's no sense in what he did at all. Like he went off. That is not how you process death. And so now the boys don't know how to do that. They don't know how to process their own death. They don't know how to process each other's deaths. And like a whole chunk of this season is Dean's failure to process death and Sam trying to get him to like, hey, you're dying, we've got to fight and stop it. Or, hey, you're dying, you've got to like learn how to figure it out. Or in the last season, hey, dad died, aren't you a bit sad about it? Don't you want to process that? And Dean being like, no, I'm edgy. I punch the car when you're away.
Okay, but like the car punching was him literally venting out his frustrations and anger against his father and what he told him in his last moments. That's not just him being edgy, and you have a lot of room to talk given your fucking outfit.
That was the joke.
The joke was how edgy I am. And just for that sass, I'm going to be edgy while I finish making my point. As I was saying, because of their issues processing death, demonstrated throughout multiple seasons, I found one of the most satisfying scenes in the series so far was when Dean decided to start teaching Sam auto repair at the end of, I can't remember what it was called. Just that he started showing Sam how to operate his baby and take care of it after he died. It showed a foresight and a willingness to care for life after your own passing, and also a willingness to prep for death and to see it as an inevitability that one can accept and learn to process healthily. And the fact that Sam accepted this reality and started to learn from Dean meant that he too was ready to begin processing in a healthy manner, something that neither of whom had achieved previously in their lives.
And that's something that neither of them follow through with, and they go right back to their unhealthy processing ways.
Just a real Iron Man 3,
it was
that
a cute
one.
Moment. It was a very sweet, sweet moment. Isn't that in like episode 1 at the end of it?
I don't know if it's episode 1. I feel like it's a bit later. I feel like it's midway through the season.
It's either episode... No, it's not midway through. It's either episode 1 or 3. It's early on. Before the Trickster episode, at the very least. But no, that's a very sweet moment, and it's one of many. And I love how you get that, and it looks like, yeah, the season's going to be about Sam and Dean working together to prepare for what's going to happen after Dean dies. And when Dean's suddenly taken away before that time in the Trickster episode, because I love the Trickster, and I want to talk about the Trickster.
Let's talk about the Trickster episode.
We'll talk about your favorite episode after, but let me just get my Trickster stuff out first, okay?
Yes.
Where I have to deal with cat nonsense. In the Trickster episode, we get a different, almost like a completely different version of Sam. And I would say he was very OC in the episode if it wasn't for the fact that he watched Dean die over 100 times before finally getting to his psychotic break. And when you recall that, oh yeah, Dean died 100 times in the time loop the Trickster threw him in, it makes more sense how he's completely unwilling to accept Dean's death and just move on when it seems like they escape the time loop and Dean dies the very next day, first thing in the morning. And he's not even talking to Bobby. And why don't the boys talk to Bobby when they're...
They don't know how to process healthily.
They don't know how to process healthily, so they don't even turn to other people. So they don't even go to Bobby, who actively calls out to them and tries to help. And when Sam's just like, yeah, I'm willing to kill a person because none of this is real. Bobby's like, oh shit, no, you really need your brother. Oh, because if I can't get to you and you're going to kill a random person, maybe Dean can. Fuck. Okay. Just now we're going to get to see a Sam after Dean's death. Another Sam that deals with Dean's death after he's been dead for quite a bit.
That was really quite a mood to see Sam in. And like you said, that it's like, oh, so without Dean, Sam just turns into John.
Sam becomes straight up John.
There's no distinction. Like, so much so that, like, he doesn't trust Bobby enough to think that he would willingly sacrifice himself. So he kills him thinking he's a demon.
He just assumes Bobby is the Trickster and the Trickster is pretending to be Bobby, even though he has no evidence of this, because he does not believe Bobby would actually sacrifice himself for Sam. And let me just tell you, Bobby would 100% do that for either of the boys. He sees them as sons, and it's sad. They don't hold them in the same high regard he holds them. It's really sad, and it's fucked up. And the Trickster is the highlight of the episode, and his quote, and the fact that there are so many supernatural beings that just give in to the boys. Because in Sin City, you have the episode where the demon is trapped with Dean in the basement, so they're talking, and the demon's like, you know, I really like you. I'll try and tell my husband not to kill you so we can all escape from here alive.
Oh, yeah.
And then you have the Crossroads demon who makes the deal with Dean for his soul, and how she says, you know, I really like you, so I'm going to give you a good deal. Or, like, and then in this season, you have the literal Trickster who has the powers of a fucking god, who kills Dean over 100 times. Sammy cries once. Sammy breaks down in tears in front of the Trickster, and he's just like, that fucking baby face, Sam. Fine. I will give you your brother back. Damn, why am I such a sucker? Anyways,
Whatever. Okay.
I ship the Trickster.
Fine.
So
It just occurred to me as we were talking about Sam's processing that I'd really like to see like a story about a psychologist that has to like treat people that are living through magical realism movies. Like he's got like a whole like group therapy session for people that Groundhog Dayed. Like, yeah,
oh
I
no.
was September the 5th, 1973. I was a baby for 30
I would love
years. Just some weirdness.
there's a book that has a time loop utilized in it, and almost the entirety of the book takes place in the time loop. And there are 13 children who realize they're in a time loop, and it's called Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar
Oh
Children.
yeah.
And one of them is writing an entire novel about what every person does on that day in their life, everything they do, every conversation they have. And then at some point they got bored doing that and they murdered everyone once. And then the very next day they pretended like they didn't kill the entire town. That gets mentioned as a joke in the book. I would love to see how many people in that group ended up being taken down that path.
Oh my
Because I feel like that's the Sam Winchester way. That's exactly where Sammy went with it.
I mean, he really did. Man. It's a heck of a thing. I forgot about, you know what I forgot about? That basement conversation you mentioned in Sin City. That's another excellent entry. We really need to like nail down some threads that we're both interested in talking about so we can have some continuity. But to bring up the earlier thread about demons and like the nuance of demons that gets like sussed out in this season, that whole conversation, like this is before we've met Ruby, who's like a demon who like explains the whole like origin of demons and is also on our side and talks about how demons are all Satanists, a thing that happens, like, but also
in the basement literally says they don't believe in God, they believe in the devil.
Oh yeah, this
It
is when we
makes them
find
like
out they're all
they're going to take
Satanists.
It
Anyway,
makes them seem like they're going to take demons are atheists. They also don't believe in God. And then they went, nope, our God is Satan, who we've never seen.
You can't do demons or atheists. I just think that you can't do that. That's not something that you can do.
That they tried. The fact that they had to do all the atheist talking points about why a Christian God could not exist. And then they're like, but ours does.
It's very, like, I don't know, it just seems very par for the course. Like, you want to instill hopelessness in people whose power source is Catholicism? And we'll get to that. You think I forgot that through line? We'll get to that.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Anyway, so, like, in that one, we also learn, like, before we've even met a nice demon or figured out where they come from, we find out, oh, they have, like, relationships and love. They, like, we already learned that they kind of sort of had families in season 1, but, like, that never showed up again, so who even cares? But now they can have, like, eternal vampire love together, but then they get murdered by a boy. So you have to murder the other one, because if you murder one immortal in a couple, you gotta kill the other. It's just a thing you gotta do.
Or else they come after you.
Or else,
like,
yeah, or else they've
come
after you. That, like, did you read the Twilight movies? I certainly did.
I didn't.
I read all 4 of those movies. 5 of those movies. There were 5 movies. I totally forgot. I forget the third one. The third one doesn't matter. Anyway, back to these immortals. And these boys who almost become immortal because Dr. Frankenstein's monster, who is also Dr. Frankenstein, shows up. And that was an interesting episode, too. Like, oh, hey, Dean, here's a way you can get out of going to hell. Become an immortal. That'll be a way to do it.
And I don't know why Sam thought that would work. Because Sam, in season 2, we see hellhounds tracking people who have made deals with them and kill them. And Sam's just like, oh, if you're an immortal, then yeah, you'll never die of old age, so you won't go to hell. But it's not old age that's going to kill Dean. He's like 26, 28 in this season. Yeah, 28. Yeah, 28, because it's season 3, so 28, 29. Like,
Sammy.
They're going to tear him up, buddy. Even if he doesn't die and go to hell, they could physically take his ass there. You saw the door.
You saw the door.
Like, Sam,
They can just walk you to that door.
or another one, and they'll open it up, and then you're fucked. Like, Sammy, they will take Dean either way. Why did you think, oh, it's not black magic, it's science? Why did you think that difference mattered? Why did you think that would stop a hellhound from tearing him apart?
Oh my
As what
goodness.
happened?
I liked that doctor, though. I liked that. I mean, I didn't like him as a person, but I liked, like, a lot of the concepts floating around about him. Like, I don't know. The fact that he, like...
Your dad killed me.
Well, that it was science, that he insisted on using anachronistic medical technology, except for when it came to scooping eyeballs, in which case a mashed potato baller was going to be his go-to tool. Don't worry, he sharpened it, he gave it serrated edges to scoop out the eyeballs in a way that would keep them whole. He gave it serrated edges. His mashed potato scoop. Maybe I'm crazy. Are there... Maybe somebody can write in and let us know. Hey, that's you didn't catch that at gmail.com. You can write us and tell us now, what was the preferred method of scooping out eyeballs in the early 19th century? Was it with a potato baller? I don't think so, but heck.
Don't ask people to send us those emails. God damn it.
I'll bleep it. We can bleep it in subsequent editions.
I'm not going to.
Oh, man. I mean, I listened to whatever. Whatever. Anyway, the doc was interesting. I love the maggots he threw on people, even the people that were dead, for no reason, really. It feels like a waste of your precious, like, skin-cleaning maggots. I like that they took him out the classic way you deal with an immortal, which is just chuck him in a bin over there. What's he gonna do about it? The idiot.
Bury him alive. Just bury him alive.
Oh man, we really do need to read Immortal Hulk at some point.
Oh my god, no.
He just straight up does that to somebody in like the 3rd issue. It's stone cold.
The fact, okay, so like when watching the Doctor episode and you see them burying him alive, Sam's got this contorted like, I'm so upset and I don't know how to feel about things that are happening face. And then you realize it's not because he feels bad about burying someone alive as they scream in terror.
Yeah.
Because he's like, oh damn, my plan to save Dean didn't work. And then you're like, oh shit, Sam is actually kind of becoming John.
Yeah.
It's no longer bothering him, the stuff that used to bother him on a hunt. And like, yeah, he says earlier in the season he's got to become more like Dean in order to survive. Dean literally became a better person because Sam was there like, hey, maybe we don't kill vampires who are vegans now. Or who are vegetarians now. No, they're not even vegetarians. Maybe we don't kill vampires who don't kill people.
Yeah. I mean,
that's what they are.
You certainly can't hold eating animals against a person, what with all the hamburgers you guys eat.
Yeah, no, and you seriously can't do that. And then Sam just goes, very next season, there's that switch at the very beginning where Sam's kind of getting psycho, and Dean's like, morals are a thing to me now.
What is this morality concept? It is new, and I shall use it.
Yo, on the subject of... Bless me. On the subject of that through line about, like, hey, maybe not all that's supernatural is super evil, Sam's psychic powers were just solid gone all season. And then I thought they were going to reveal that Dean was getting some new ones, but it turns out that the Doomed can just see demons. So at the end, his new demon sight was just like, oh, a temporary thing? Like,
Yeah.
like what's-her-face's psychic powers in The Flash while she was pregnant? I really should have, like, stuck some names or, like, a season onto that one. All I remember is that at some point somebody was pregnant and they had psychic powers on The Flash. And then she had the baby and it went away.
I have no idea
Temporary
what you're
powers.
talking about.
Yeah,
Anyways.
it's a thing.
I don't watch The Flash, so anyways.
Never do. Honestly, I like it. It was my trash for a period of time. It is no longer my trash because I like my brain in a solid-ish state. And it has to be a certain kind of liquid to survive several episodes of The Flash in a row.
This is my trash, this series that you're
Oh my goodness.
being dragged through.
I mean, this whole, like, everything I recommend is really just, here's Noah's trash at some other point in time. Except for Squirrel Girl, that's
All right,
perennially
so-
my trash. That's not even trash, that's gold. That's gold. That's the one solid
Getting back
gold.
to the point.
Yes, yes, yes. Back to the point.
Getting back to the Oh, role reversal happening live. Anyways,
Oh no,
Sam's
it's like the
powers
show.
are gone this season. They're not even mentioned. They're not even mentioned until the very last episode, where Ruby points out that, hey, you do realize you haven't had your powers because you haven't tried to use them, right? And Sam just assumed, oh, all the other special kids are dead, so of course I can't use my powers. Because my only power was seeing them or my brother almost die. And that's going to get touched on next season. But you're right. They're just completely gone. And we get to see, like, Sam and Dean and how they are without the whole special psychic thing hanging over them, despite the fact that, like, Gordon and his super religious friend, who's apparently crazy, even according to other hunters as well, try and hunt him down for powers he doesn't even fucking have anymore.
And it's not like the powers, you know, the specter of them doesn't still, like, affect things, you know, like with
Yeah,
their
no,
relationship. Like, especially the Groundhog's Day episode. I loved, like, we were watching that one together, and I loved how much, like, oh, hey, the more he does this, the more this is just going to look like his psychic powers coming back with a vengeance. Like, the more you know about the day,
Yeah.
the more you're using, like, your ability to predict things as, like, a metric for how much groundhogging you've been doing. The more the more Dean is
Dean's
going to be
thing.
like, hey, maybe you're just doing a psychic right now. And Sam's going to be like, no, it's a different kind of reason why I know the future.
I swear, it is. It really is.
You gotta believe
goes psycho.
me.
I just love how both the moments in that episode where Sam jumps off the deep end and, like, almost causes physical harm to other people are both moments where Dean's just like, everyone's fine. We're all gonna make it out okay. Hey, Sam, maybe put down the weapon. Because he's not even worried about Sam's psychic powers at that point. He's just like, oh shit, my brother's actually deadly with a weapon. I trained him to be. Fuck. The fear.
Actually,
He accidentally
deadly.
kills him with a fucking axe. Actually deadly.
Dean, let go.
The fact- Yeah, no, Sam kills in that episode. And earlier in the season, in the Sin City, and earlier in the season, or maybe later, Dean calls Sam out for getting beaten by a girl. But dude, Dean got beat by Joe. There's just there's so much shit with the brothers. There's so
And
much shit with
Ruby,
them.
like, in the finale, proceeded to hand Dean and Sam their own butts.
Oh yeah, no, she fucking kicked their asses.
If it weren't for their subterfuge and hidden demon traps in the roof, which, by the way, have they never thought to combine the floored trap with the ceiling trap? I know the ceiling trap is for surprise reveals, but it seems like if you wanted to cover all your bases, you'd do both. Then again, I guess if a demon has the telekinesis, neither is going to be an issue.
Yeah, no, they're the same trap. It doesn't matter.
Well, I know they're the
just-
same trap. I just meant for, like, redundancies.
I guess. It doesn't matter if they're not physically on top of it. They don't have to physically touch the trap
Yeah,
for the
yeah.
trap to get them. They have to be going over it or under it.
Which raises
So that's
another
why
interesting point. Why not get, like, okay, listen to me. Get one of those, like, trucks with a billboard on the side, or better yet, you get, like, a news van with a massive antenna that you can spray paint it on, and you aim it like a gun, and you trap them in the cone of the demon trap. And then you have, and then you have to understand. You think, well, Noah, now that you've pointed at them, you're just stuck with the demon there and the gun pointed at them. No, they can't get out of there. So you can squiggle that thing all around. The demons will get bouncing around in the tunnel of the demon trap lock. So you can, like, catch a whole group of demons as you pass them by, spraying them with the demon lock until they get all stuffed up and all chunked up in the cone of the demon trap. And it's just a solid tube of
really-
demon human meat, you know, for like 100 yards out.
really on your side there until that very end, where if you move the trap, you move the demon. No, that doesn't work.
You got them. And no, this is. And
Everything
then
else, though.
And then you combine that with the other weapon that we hypothesized. Remember when they were defending the jail from all the demons coming in to take them out in the last episode with our pal Agent Garrickson? Henriksen. And they instead of they put the demon traps everywhere, put the salt on the walls, all the demons came in, and then they were stuck, and then they played over the loudspeaker a recording of Sam reciting an exorcism, and then we both had the same thought years and years and years apart when we first saw that episode. You told me this, and I told you this. Hey, what if you took that same recording, used that again, but you sped it up? How slow does it have to be to work? Could you do it in 5 seconds? Could you just speed through it all? Does that count? And if so, why are you not blaring that all the time? Or at least whenever you're in a spooky place. So I'm telling you.
Loop, just have it. It's always
constantly on a
going
loop,
when you
boombox on your shoulder, demon trap ray gun on baby. I should be a hunter.
Okay.
I should be a hunter.
I
should be a hunter.
I love hearing this. We did have the same idea a few years apart. I think as far as the speed thing is, you have to clearly hear every single word. If it's going so fast you can't understand it, then it's too fast and won't work. But that's just, I don't know. They never try that. I don't fucking know. Never try to speed it up. They do the whole recording of exorcism a couple more times when it's convenient, but I don't think they ever speed it up. I don't know, but that's a great question. That is a fantastic question. And I'm just, oh my gosh, your baby would be eyesore if you had a Impala ready to trick out as a fucking hunter vehicle. It would be an eyesore.
An effective eyesore, dragging a extending column of demons trapped in a demon trap, going out 100 yards into the sky.
God damn it. No, we're not doing that. Not doing that.
And then I'd exercise them all and gently place the people down before I did so. Otherwise, they'd fall out of the demon trap the moment the trap revealed, and the invisible cone of trappedness went away, no longer affecting them due to my exercising of them, and they just...
You do realize that some of those people may not be dead, because if a demon gets exorcised,
I know. That's why I'd have to let them down gently before I release the demons, because I don't want the is an unwanted scenario.
Like you let them drop and all die. That's what it sounded like.
No. That was me explaining why I have to gently aim it so that it is perpendicular with the ground, with only a few feet of clearance between it. That way, when I do the exorcism, they don't. They just gently, it's a lot easier to survive than a...
So, since we're already going down the goofy route, your favorite episode?
My favorite episode of the season! Oh my gosh. Ghost Facers!
I hate this so much.
I'm going to play the theme song in the podcast. I'm going to play a chunk of the theme song in the middle of the podcast.
Oh my god.
What an episode. What a classic. It's got all my favorite things about a good, fun, standout-ish supernatural episode. 1, episodic. 2, different perspective. You know that's why I loved Roadkill so much. You know it. And also, it's just, genuinely scary in a way that most supernatural episodes really aren't. Because it's a show about scary stuff, but it's more like a show about spooky stuff. The delineation,
You're never scared because the two brothers aren't going to die.
Yeah, there's definitely a part of that. The brothers aren't going to die, and this time certainly helps that we're following a different group that you're sort of growing to get attached to and you don't want to go. But also just in terms of raw subject matter and how it's being portrayed with the found footage style, the scares get cracked up a bit, and also just their antagonist Spirit is just an extra nasty guy, on a lot of levels. He's
defiling, nasty guy.
It's very in life he was doing horrible things, including repeated murder, And then he didn't do any murders in his life. No. In life he was doing nasty things that weren't murder. In his death he was doing nasty things that were murder. Yeah, it's that
Yeah.
one. Don't make. I'm gonna have to record my own content warning at the start of these episodes. Dang it, Supernatural, you're ruining. I'm gonna have to. It's always makes for such an awkward start to an episode. Anyway, I love the Ghost Facers, except most of them are trash people. It's
All of them are.
like
Except for Maggie.
except for Maggie and and my favorite dead intern. Except
Maggie and
for
Corbett are amazing.
Maggie and Corbett are excellent people. The cameraman doesn't get too much characterization, so he.
Cameraman is Spencer, who spends his whole time making fun of everyone else who is on camera, and then giving last minute warnings as the ghost teleports around.
So yes, cameraman seems all right. Maggie is excellent. Maggie is solid. Maggie was okay. So like, not to be too much like throw too much trash around, but after in the last episode, which was Henriksen and the boys hold down a police station with Nancy, who was somehow the perfect unity of like waifish, subservient, sort of meek. It felt like, certainly at the beginning, she felt like she was kind of like bringing a lot of that unpleasant Asian woman stereotype to the forefront, and combined with a lot of like Catholic repressed girl stereotypes. Like, it kind of went away as the episode went off, but it certainly felt like that. She was certainly the most like scared of the supernatural or the scary like potential murder boys wandering around.
I understand the whole Catholic submissive girl school stereotypes, but I didn't pick up on the Asian ones because she's not Asian. She's Hispanic.
She was? My goodness.
Yeah.
I really misread that. Well,
she's played by I forget her first name, but her last name's Garcia, and she plays another character in Lucifer.
well, that's egg choking my lungs.
Continue where you were going with Maggie.
Anyway, well, with Maggie is just, I don't know, excellent and fun, and like a fun breath of fresh air for our female NPCs, just to be like competent and running around with the supernatural and not getting murdered by it. A thing that just doesn't happen in the show much for some reason.
Maggie's amazing, and if only like her brother didn't feel the need to beat the shit out of his best friend just because he kissed her.
Yeah, and also her brother was just a bizarrely racist man. Like, who goes around saying adoptive sister? What's that about? That's okay.
I don't know.
It's
so
it's
creepy. I hate the ghost facers because like Ed and the other one creep the shit out of me. They're so creepy.
Ed and the other one are so bad, and they're like, and the other one especially, like when they get into his backstory, like, you know, I'm 15/16 Jewish and 1/16. What?
That's Spencer. That's the camera guy. The camera guy gets into that.
Oh, the camera guy was like, oh, never mind the camera guy. It's just Maggie and Corbett. Look,
Maggie and Corbett are the best too.
my big attract. Okay. A lot of horribleness in terms of like the jokes they tell around a lot of these characters in ways that are clearly not just the characters being bad, but also the writers thinking that it's funny to be this bad.
Yeah.
That being said,
you have to understand the episode literally starts off with them, Ed and his buddy making, I think his name's Harry, I don't remember. With the two guys who are in charge making fun of the writer's strike that was happening in the world, which caused the season to be the shortest season of Supernatural and caused a lot of people unable to come back for this season as guest stars because of the writer's strike. And they literally start that episode off making fun of it and calling the writers on strike lazy. So yeah, this episode leaves a bad taste in my mouth.
I always figured that was sort of, there was a tongue-in-cheekness like to anything that they said, like on that level. Like, them calling the writers lazy was just evidence of just a continuation of their clear lack of knowledge about how anything works in Hollywood or television.
And maybe it was supposed to be like that.
Yeah.
That could have very well been the point of it. It just, unless you do your research, it doesn't come off that way. It doesn't come off as like tongue in cheek. At least to me personally, it didn't come off that way. It came off as like, oh, the writers are going to say this, and it's supposed to be tongue in cheek, but it really just comes off as gross. Wrong. But as you were saying about the episode,
well, I just what really gets me is the tone of it is so fun. The way, like I said, the found footage sort of style, and it's not just a found footage style, it's very specifically a parody of like supernatural ghost hunting reality shows. Like, here we are, we're setting up our cameras, we got one cameraman talking around, we've got all our, like, it's a very clearly parodying of things that a lot of early season 1 Supernatural was actually drawing from. The idea of an EMF reader, the idea of going around and trolling through a place to find out, why it had been, why it's got something that's going on and doing a haunting in it. Just a lot of these core elements of it. And then it has, like, there are two things to it that it kind of does that really amp it up as a Supernatural episode. Not only is it doing the form, but also it's just like a funny parody. Like, it is very, like, taking into account a lot of the jokes are trash and were not good at the time and are not good now. Like a lot of deep racism and horrible stereotypes and varying levels of pretty gross homophobia depending on how charitably you're reading those sequences, because I think you can, there's readings. That being said, there's still a lot to there that is just genuinely funny. It's fun to see incompetent people running around with the real ghosts and see them bouncing off of the brothers.
That is the best part of the whole thing. The ghosts sending these people fucking terrified. I love it.
And the ghost is that other half.
Grab the salt.
Grab
a salt, make a circle, get inside your duffel bag? No, you dumb shit.
Exact like we were saying about the ghost earlier, this is like one of the most messed up like spirit encounters we've had, certainly all season, in terms of just like raw scariness of like, we'll drag you away, put you in his horrible like, in his horrible birthday party, and we'll like brutally murder you there. For a second I thought he was doing like a Silence of the Lamb things to Corbett and like was like eating him as like he sat at the table looking like at Sam, and Sam was like, you're gonna be all right, it's gonna be okay. And like I thought that was gonna be the big reveal, because that's where my brain was. I was like, oh, this is deeply messed up territory. No, he was just getting like brutally murdered with like an ice pick or something. Like,
that way he would become a deaf echo and repeat his murder, so the ghost won't be alone.
It's a scary episode, and it's so fun to see the show just like bounce to two extremes of tonality at the same time, with a cast of characters and with a unique form to it all to like wrap it up as like a fun little bow. And they get a lot of fun jokes out of like cutting in between commercials using the Ghost Facers song and logo. And when they finally drop the act at the end and like the boys have to erase everything, that's sort of a fun tragic scene, made all the more so fun by the knowledge in the back of my mind given to me by Taylor that my deepest wishes expressed to her partway through the episode that I just want a bunch more Ghost Facers would be given to me.
I told him about the web series.
There's a web series! Oh my gosh!
I told you that there were more Ghost Facers. They got their own spin-off series. It was a web series. I told you all of this in the Discord.
I'm so excited for this web series.
Watch it yet.
I'm so excited for this web series.
You have to finish season 5. As spoilers for all of season 5 and 4.
Let's just pause for a moment, marinate in the Ghost Facers. I'm gonna read off some of their great lines. For an episode that was clearly made without writers, it was hilarious. Here's some hits. Rats are like the rats of the world. Calm the whirlwinds of your mind. And of course, there's also the classic that the fandom has apparently picked up and used in contexts I'm terrified to explore, but which will serve as an excellent gateway into a conversation that has to be had about ghost facers, about something that I think deserves a nuanced investigation. Given to us nearly 15 years ago,
God damn
you
it.
gotta go be gay for that poor, dead intern. Indeed. Corbett, as we've mentioned, dies. What we haven't mentioned is that Corbett has, like, every character has, like, one joke, except for Maggie, who is just sort of, like, involved in the jokes that are some of the other characters, like in how one of the partners is dating her, or one of the partners is weirdly racist and distant about her being his adopted sister. She doesn't really get to
Yeah.
have her own joke, which is a bit frustrating in and of itself, but I guess I should be relieved because it probably would have been bad. Um, that's probably what saves her as a
racist. It
character,
probably-
really. Corbett's joke is that he is gay, like, not very secretly at all, but he never, like, says it explicitly. But he's just, like, loudly very attracted to one of the two ghost facer guys. That's his.
He's attracted to Ed, who is the adoptive brother of Maggie.
That is the sum total of, like, if every character has a joke and we're to take their main defining trait as being the joke, his joke is that he is gay, and that is, like, the sum of it. What's frustrating, I guess, and why I feel like this deserves some nuanced conversation, is because I think the way that it's presented is just, I don't know, it's not explicitly making fun of the idea of someone being, like,
It's
attractive, and it's not explicitly making fun of, like, the drama of it, but the fact that he uses it in this context makes it feel like a lot of some really deeply homophobic jokes that came from this time period even before, where we'd see sincere, wholehearted, genuine, like, gay stories and feelings presented, and it was the reaction of everybody else around it, the disgust, the, like, frustration, the, like, embarrassment, the homophobia, whatever. That was supposed to be the joke. You were supposed to relate to the frustratedness and feel vaguely similar to them about this, like, genuine, touching story that had been put up there for the sole purpose of like, enticing that same reaction in you. And so I guess I just want to talk about the scene where Ed goes up and tries to snap the death echo Corbett out of it by, like saying, "Hey, I love you, and, you know, I'm so glad you were here, and, like, we're such a good member of the Ghost Facers. You gotta clean yourself up and get out of here and go die."
Yeah. Okay, so it's not Corbett being gay is very much the closest you get to a very distinguished trait of him that could even be poked fun at, as they do with all the other characters in the Ghost Facers. The cameraman being a racist, arrogant dick is kind of his. And, like, even in the last moment you see Corbett, where they dedicate the whole video they're recording to him, he immediately gets made fun of by the cameraman for being sappy, because Corbett's only goal in that night, in the night of the whole thing, is that he hopes all their dreams and wishes will come true, and he thinks this is their big break, and he wants to help Ed and the other guy make it on. That's his goal. That's all he wants. And the cameraman immediately makes fun of him for being sappy about it. And while nothing in the episode directly makes fun of Corbett being gay, the fact that he's the one that's demeaned by everyone else except for Maggie, because I can't remember any jokes she makes at his expense, the fact that he's the one who immediately gets fucking grabbed first and dies, not even halfway through, he's like halfway through the episode before he dies, but he's alive for a good bit of time before he dies in front of Sam. And the point of him dying in front of Sam is that you get to see his death, and it kind of follows that same different visual technique the rest of the episode has gone with, which is why Sam is there with him. And then it's just, there's so much about this episode I find distasteful and cringe, which is why I can't stand it. Yeah, it's funny and it's got great jokes, but
Recording a podcast
the whole
here.
Corbett situation is very uncomfortable, and it's something that is repeatedly suggested in the show. Earlier, we talked about Sin City and the demons who were married. in that same episode of Sin City, you have Dean's friend. You have a friend of Dean's who gets introduced. He's someone Dean basically taught hunting to because they did a job together, and Dean had to teach him how not to die. Well, in that episode, he also ends up dying after making some jokes about having sex with multiple women and twins and other disgusting stuff, and then getting really close to Dean. And if you've seen, Noah hasn't, but if you've seen the other seasons, Dean has a history of guy friends he was kind of close to that were important in some ways to him, that he defends almost as aggressively as his brother. And this is the first time you see that instance of that trope showing up in relation to Dean and Dean's sexuality. And he also immediately dies, and he's used as a propulsion for Dean to get pissed at the demon and not fall for her wiles as she tries to switch him to inside. Corbett is the same thing, only it's used to take to make the ghost facers take this thing more seriously and actually help finish it. And Corbett ends up saving the day. So yeah, that's a little bit better than what happened to fucking the woman from season 2 who killed her girlfriend and then died right after she got introduced. Yeah. The show has a complicated history of LGBTQ community. It could be because of the time it came out, because the show did start in 2005, and in 2003 was when the sodomy laws were finally stopped being a thing in the United States, like stopped being part of the active law. So it was around the time where like, this isn't great representation, and it falls into the murder your gays trope. Both of them do. Actually, both of them do. You can kind of argue the other one I was talking about in Sin City kind of does too.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to take a lot of argument and convincing. But at the same time, they're not inherently making fun of these people as they are. So it could have been a lot worse than what it is. And that doesn't defend it.
That's the thing. Especially with this episode in particular, that's what gets me. Because I can't really definitively say that they ever really make fun of it, because they don't. And my worry is that is supposed to be the joke. That in and of itself, the idea of genuine, like, gay love in this context with these characters is supposed to be interpreted by me, the late 2000s something, like 20-something guy that's watching the show. You know, I'm supposed to take that and on its own find that to be funny, or at least of some comedic value. I don't know.
Yeah.
I think, but there's no denying that there it is presented with a clear sincerity, with the idea being that is sort of the one sort of honest emotional core to this whole episode. Whether or not that's a joke doesn't really change the reality that, like you said, you know, they end on a very sincere moment with Corbett, on a moment that does kind of read like, I feel like the whole episode is really just like Scary Office, but better in a lot of ways. That sort of reads to me as like, if we're using that same comparison, as one of those like quiet end of episode serious The Office moments, like where the funnies have ended and here we're going to have a bit of actual character growth or moments of like development here. And then I certainly feel like, I don't know, that was that. There's a part of this episode that I think genuinely is telling a genuine heartfelt story in the context of a bunch of horror and comedy. And to what degree is, I don't know, it's complicated, but it's still not good representation, certainly. I'm not going to say that. But is it explicitly homophobic? That's something that I guess I'll leave to the...
That's a question, and that's a line that gets towed a lot in the series.
Yeah.
And there's going to be a lot of instances where stuff like that comes up, and you're going to be left wondering that question a lot. Is it explicitly homophobic? And there will be people in the fandom who say, yes, this is an instance of explicit homophobia. And other people are like, no, it wasn't great, but it also wasn't directly homophobic. It happens a lot. I wish it didn't. I wish wish they had better representation. I wish they didn't make all these other horrible jokes in this episode. So then you're left feeling like, oh, that was supposed to be another horrible one, but it wasn't as explicit as the rest. Because it felt like it didn't have to be.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I feel like I can't stand that episode. So I am kind of biased on it because I would rather just pretend it didn't exist. But it does. Yeah. And there's a lot of issues that are prevalent in Supernatural that are just like embodied in that episode. And you can't really just ignore it. Although I think Sam and Dean, their discussion over it all at the end kind of helps sum up my feelings about it in general. Like, Sam and Dean are talking about it, and Sam points out to the Ghostfacers, hey, this is a horrible exploitation of your dead friend. Yeah. The Ghostfacers are like, no, he would have wanted it this way. He would have wanted us to proceed and accomplish our dreams. And yeah, he would have. But at the same time, it is a gross exploitation. And it's something that happens a lot in media where people get exploited because others feel comfortable doing it. And then Dean says, I have the quote, Dean says, basically says something along the lines of, this show has its good, the show had its good moments, but he ultimately didn't like it. And that was basically supposed to be meta commentary on Supernatural itself. That's the show poking fun at itself, which is something it does a whole lot. Mm-hmm. But in this case, it also just sums up how I feel about that episode in general. Mm-hmm. It had a few good moments. It could have been way worse, but there's so much wrong with it that feels exploitative. And this isn't like, again, I hated all the characters in that episode besides Sam, Dean, Maggie, and Corbett. So, like, the other three dudes in that episode, if they could have just been, like,
just the worst.
Gone, it would have been so much better. But those are the Ghostfacers.
I think
so they're not going on.
What bugs me I think that your critiques are right and accurate, and I think it's funny that this can really work as synecdoche for what I suspect will be the entire summary of the show's relationship, like with queerness in particular, and just with like the general bigotries as a whole. You know, this idea, like it had some good moments, but there are a lot of moments too where it just like does it badly, or does it in a way that isn't clearly good and could be interpreted as badly. And that feels like a lot of the show at its worst. For example, a lot of moments in this episode in particular, a lot of the jokes that they tell, I don't think you're supposed to dislike the main three of the Ghostfacers as much as these writers have constructed them to be. Like, and it doesn't bode well for the writers that they thought these would be funny things to joke about. In particular, I can't stand the jokes about. I really can't stand the jokes about Native Americans when they're talking about the ancestry of the cameraman. That was like the most explicitly anti-Native American humor I think I've ever like heard in modern television. Like, that was just so out of left field and so born of like such painful realities and like stereotypes. It was genuine. Like, it took me a moment. I didn't process it when he like made the joke about his like grandfather who died of addiction. Like, I was like, wait, was that a serious moment? And I was like, wait, no, those are actual horrible stereotypes that like hurt people to this day. Holy cow, what's wrong with you, writers?
Another instance of that. And I think it's also back in Sin City, like very clear, like anti-Native American bullshit happening in the episode. Mm-hmm. And it's in Sin City where he's talking to the demon woman in the basement. And she says, she literally calls her side of the demon war the Indians versus hunters. No, because like the Cowboys and Lilith's armies are all the Cowboys, or the hunters in Lilith's army, and her side, which is the side that supports Sam, which is supposed to be the underdog side, is the Indian side. And there's a lot of language used like that throughout this entire series. It's just very anti-Native American and just fucking gross. And you miss them if you aren't like listening for it, or if you aren't like aware of the explicit language. They're really simple to just look over. In season 1, the like just the horrible stuff about Native American culture was explicit. Episode 8, Bugs, was very explicit with it. The stuff about the Wendigo was very explicit. It's a mistake that's done a lot by people who aren't Native Americans, so it's an understandable mistake. But they even got the tribe that the legends they were using were from wrong, and the location that the Wendigo legend usually popped up in wrong too. They didn't do any research, and it happens a lot when it comes to the Native American the legends that they borrow from Native American cultures to use in this series. Skinwalkers, another one who have only been mentioned so far and haven't actually shown up, but that's again going to be one they're probably going to get the lore wrong about. I don't even remember because they only show up in one episode, so I don't personally remember the Skinwalker lore off the top of my head right now. But when we get to it, I'll probably have a lot to say on that matter too. It happens a lot in this show. It's an issue that is very explicit, and I wish it wasn't, but it was, and you can't deny that it's very evident in the series.
Absolutely. Well, looks like we're running out of time here. I've got sort of I've got one major thread we didn't get to, but I have the sneaking suspicion that I'll get a chance to talk about the Catholicness of this show next season. For some reason, I just get a vague sense that there's going to be a lot more Catholic next season. It's just batting me on the head with a large feathered wing. That being said, for all of our...
First time in this season. Season 3, episode 6. Watch if you want to hear somebody shout Castiel's name in the middle of a prayer.
She made us watch that episode together just for that moment that I totally missed because I'm not paying attention to the fake Latin. It was also for all the moments of the boys being objectified by the women in that episode. Oh yeah.
Finally, and where you think they would learn a lesson about objectifying women themselves, and then they immediately didn't.
Absolutely not. Not these boys. Come on now. Oh boy.
Yeah.
Oh boys. Well, I just think of it. I mean, for all the critique that we do, like we say, we critique the things we love because you have to be able to do that. That's part of a healthy relationship, is being able to look at a thing and say, I like this, but these are the unhealthy parts of it that aren't great. Which is why I can still say that Ghostfacers was probably the episode I had the most fun with, even if it also has some of the grossest stuff in the season in terms of like actual like intended content, and in terms of, whoa, writers, that's a bad place to be in. Yeah. That being said, I still like, I've not reached the point where I'm done with the series. Like, I still recommend season 3 is a fun time, fun episodic moments. Ghostfacers is fun. Seeing Dr. Frankenstein's monster himself was really creepy and interesting, and really drove the boys to some interesting locales. Dean and Sam doing auto repair together was genuinely touching. It was a fun time, fun season. I think I look forward to the next one and seeing a character that the fandom just latched onto like there was nobody's tomorrow.
I'm just gonna my favorite episode this season is Mystery Spot, but I love the Trickster.
Oh my goodness.
My favorite episode is him and his episode, which is really fun, but also really fucking sadistic when you think about it. The dude killed you in the last episode, so you're gonna kill him 100 times? Okay.
Taking a bit too far there, store brand Loki.
You keep calling him that. Wait until you find out the truth.
Oh my goodness. Well.
Anyways.
Who have we been?
I've been Taylor, your host.
And I've been Noah, and I've been Edgy Noah.
We did our nails in black.
We did our nails in black today.
Oh, it was supposed to be because, supernatural, dark themes. They like the color black, those boys.
Oh, look.
Oh my god, and now it's Edgy Noah time.
Not with a cat. It's not a black cat, but it'll count.
I've also got a cat.
Cats all around for the end of the episode.
Anyways, good night, everybody.
I'm so glad I finally got that season.
Thank you for watching the video. If you liked our discussions on Supernatural Season 3, please subscribe to support our channel. Likes are wonderful and greatly appreciated too. If you want to see these episodes get made before they go up on YouTube, you can find links to our Twitch channels in the descriptions below. We record the episodes on both channels at 9 p.m. EST time, Tuesday nights. So, what did you guys think about Supernatural Season 3? Are you a fan of Ruby or no?